If you're in corporate sales, especially as an SDR, you're in a 50K to 80K a year opportunity, but you have a 200K plus per year skill set. How do I know this? I was in corporate sales making 85K a year, transitioned into high ticket sales, have been able to get up to 17K in a month. You can do the math, 204K a year. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a second, but I wanted to give you guys a quick visual. Hope you find this amusing. Lewis Hamilton, that's you right now. This is you right now, this old busted ass Honda Civic, but high ticket sales is the corporate sales, is the high ticket sales, not corporate. So a little bit more about me though, so you know I'm not bullshitting. As you can see here, this is me in corporate sales prior. Walk into the office, got my little key card and everything. Was working for a Fortune 500 company. Was able to generate $10 million as an SDR before transitioning to high ticket sales. Was able to get up to 17K in a month working with some of the influencers you see here, hitting 93% close rates, having a pretty dialed in framework that I got from sales coaches doing 50K to 100K a month in commissions. But more on that on the channel. I've also been able to help other people do the same, such as Bader. You see him here with Grant Cardone. Regardless of what you think of Grant Cardone, if we're able to get in the picture, get in the frame with him as a sales rep, he must be doing something right. This is what allowed me to, as I said, get the 17K a month, be able to move to Thailand. So I'd love to be able to share this with you guys today and the differences between corporate sales and high ticket sales, so you can know if this is actually something for you, something you want to do, and if it makes sense for you in your career path, because trust me, it isn't for everyone. So getting into the side-by-side comparison between the two of them, in W-2 / corporate sales versus 1099 or high ticket sales, and if you're not from America, that's essentially freelance versus being a salary man, essentially, right? So within W-2 and corporate sales, you have a stupid amount of internal meetings, relatively pointless meetings at that, damn near no agenda, versus the high ticket sales, I've just found that there's a lot less of that. Meetings are typically shorter, and if there's no agenda, then there's no meeting, okay? Then from there, you also have pretty shitty sales tactics within corporate sales, very script heavy, product knowledge heavy, consultative approach heavy, which then in turn means, hey, look, you need 5+ years in this industry in order to get this role, but it's an entry level role. Like, how does that work? Okay, versus if you have the advanced sales frameworks, which I once again we'll cover here in a moment, you can pretty much go to any offer within freelance and absolutely smash it with 1 day to 2 day ramp up times, versus if you get let go on a corporate sales offer, you have to wait months before you're back in the game. You see what I mean? So if you brought that same sales framework to corporate, you would absolutely dominate, of course, but why do that when you can make more money with a high ticket, which I'll explain here in a moment why. Then there's also a lot of cold calling and outbound. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that in high ticket that you don't have some of that, or that you shouldn't be doing it if you're a sales rep and you want to make the most amount of money. But when that's predominantly how you're making your money, it's kind of a soul-sucking, draining thing to do. And if you can have all inbound leads on your calendar, which a lot of high-ticket opportunities do, or even if you're a dialer, they're a lot more high intent when you're cold calling. Why wouldn't you take that opportunity? Especially if it means you're making more money. As well, from there, you have capped income within W-2 corporate sales. I remember getting to like 187%, very vividly. Got to 187% of quota attainment in like 6 weeks. So remember, in corporate, you're usually going off of a quarterly quota, or monthly some cases, but for us it was quarterly. And I had another 6 weeks left. So what am I going to do this next 6 weeks? Am I going to keep my momentum and push and make the company money without getting any benefit? Or am I going to take my foot off the gas pedal and maybe push those opportunities to the next quarter, which it doesn't really benefit the company or me in that instance, right? So that being said, I really like the opportunity for uncapped commissions. Now, of course, that's not every corporate sales role, but that's a heavy bit of them, right? And them giving you that base pay enables them to do that, because a lot of people look at that as a floor, but instead it's rather a ceiling as well whenever they give you that base pay. If you know the economics behind it, it makes sense, but I'm sure you've seen it in your own world, right? A lot of people get intimidated by the the uncapped commission structure, but base pay. I remember I was initially when I first got into it, but to be honest with you, man, like if you know what data to look for when you're interviewing and you're asking these offer owners, like, hey, look, are you tracking XYZ, this and that, and you can get a pretty good forecast of what you're expected to make. Okay, but once again, that's from knowing the data behind the business and knowing what questions to ask during the interview process, okay? And then from there, I found within corporate sales, you have a relatively non-business minded environment, which is kind of funny, right? Because you're working in a business, but there's not much entrepreneurial spirit versus in the high ticket path. There's a lot of that. Everybody wants to do their own thing, or they're really heavy entrepreneurs who want to contribute at a high level. Now, of course, you have killers in ducks in both. But I found that in high ticket, it's a lot more entrepreneurial minded as opposed to corporate sales. These people just get comfortable with their base salary, kind of ride it out, and just do enough to get by. A lot more B and C players. Okay? Then from there, there's relatively no growth opportunities within corporate. I know they tell you, hey, look, get to this, wait to this quarter, and you can grow, right? Versus within high ticket, I mean, you kind of write your own check. So there you go, right? They're incentivized to also pay you more because everybody's getting paid off of percentage usually, and performance rather within corporate. A lot of people are just, getting their typical base pay and wanting to not rock the boat or anything. So whatever allows them to not do, the rocking the boat and just keep their opportunity going, they'll do it. Okay? And, we can't ignore the politics and the passive aggressive communication style within corporate sales. I mean, you got grown ass men communicating like bitches, dude. Just being serious. I really don't like that style of communication within corporate. It's like, tell me straight up, tell me what it is. And I know this just wasn't my corporate sales organizations because it's across the board from what I've been hearing from other individuals as well. Versus I really like that direct communication style, which you get in high ticket sales. Okay, but if you're not for that blunt, quick, direct feedback and quick feedback loops that you'll get within high ticket, then maybe it's not meant for you, and that's fine. You can stay within corporate. Do your capped pay, bro. That's how you want to play it. But yeah, anyways, let's get into the actual roles within high ticket. Okay, within high ticket, you have a closer and an appointment setter. Think of this as an SDR and an account executive. Okay, so for the closer, you have Zoom and phone sales. You got to go through an entire sales process. You're reframing them. You're doing the pitch and objection handling. Okay, versus on the appointment setting, this can even be in the DMs, funny enough, kind of like you would do with email, or you're on the phone. You're just financially qualifying them. You're having short conversations. You build enough of a gap for the closer to have them show up with high intent, framing them properly. You're finding pain points, how long have they had issues, and their willingness to invest. Think of it as BANT's budget, authority, need, timeline. Essentially when it comes to the qualification, but obviously you can get more in the weeds there, but it's very similar to SDR work, and closers are very similar to account executives. It's just the sales cycles are typically shorter, and there's not much work to be done after the setter has set the call, and the closer between the call and when they hop on, not too much to do there. Okay, within appointment setting, you can usually make 3K to 10K a month, depending on the opportunity. I've seen setters make 15K a month. They definitely don't expect that. You can usually expect the lower end here. It's the best noob skill, and you usually don't want to stay in this too long. I'm seeing some setters stay up to a year. They're just comfortable there, but you can usually get out of setting within 3 to 6 months if you're brand new to sales. Okay, versus closing, you can get into it in under 6 months. Good luck getting an account executive role in under 6 months, by the way. Have fun doing that. But you can get between 8K to 15K a month relatively quickly. In under a year if you're really grinding hard and you're looking for the right opportunities. Okay, that's what I was able to do, get the 17K a month, consistent 5-figure months. Been able to help mentees such as Bader, I showed you earlier, get the 18K a month, consistently doing 5 figures a month, right? So it's the most important skill in business as well long-term, the ability to close and communicate and lead people to make decisions, especially if you want to get into leadership positions down the line. And it really can be a long-term career. Guys are able to get the 50K plus per month within high ticket. All right, so those are the differences between the two. And here is the framework I'll go over. I blocked out one of the sections so you can't copy and paste it, right? But this is the one that allowed me to do a 93% close rate over a 2-month stretch. And you see here, I got some swagginess to the pitch, apparently, as one of my buddies says. And if you know the outcomes you want, then the questions can be shape-shifted. It's not a copy and paste approach. You know what to place emphasis on, whether you're trying to place emphasis on the timeline or the exact result that they're experiencing, right? It's once again, very malleable framework that can slide off for the offer, B2B, B2C, but this is essentially the gist of it. If you want to take your screenshots, you can. Okay. Now, how do you actually find these roles is a big question I get. And there's a few different ways you can do it. You can do Upwork and freelance sites. Okay. You can do Discord and communities, which is the best one. Paid groups, paying to have access to it. And you can also do Well-Found and LinkedIn. All right, Well-Found is a fractional SDR, fractional account executive job board, but they do also have some corporate, more like tech sales roles in there as well with tech startups. So that's a pretty good one. You can do a cold outreach. You can go on YouTube and look up a niche that you're interested in. Think of day trading, crypto, fitness, people who are selling those offers. You analyze their traffic, to see if they're getting enough attention, views, if they have landing pages set up, find their emails and Instagram, send them a personalized loom. Which if you don't know what that means, check out the channel. I have a little bit more on that as well. And here's an example of a opening message that you guys could use. So a little bit more about like what even is high ticket. It's essentially just selling done for you and done with you services. Think a marketing agency, for example, that's a done for you service. They do email marketing for you, but they can also teach a business how to do email marketing, which you could also sell that. So you could sell the email marketing service itself, or you could sell to a business how to do an email marketing agency, how to do email marketing. You give them your copy and paste SOPs, as well as maybe do a little bit hands-on consulting and helping them adjust the emails that they're crafting. And that's how you have that done for you element. I mean, done with you element. Okay. There is also do it yourself. Those are very rarely ever being sold at a high ticket price. Those are usually under $1,000. And those deals, if you are selling those, are usually down sales, or the setter is selling those if there's somebody's disqualified. Okay, most beginning flagship offers that you're selling will be around 3K to 5K. And then once you get onto those better opportunities, you can do anywhere from like 5K to fucking 30K packages. Okay, usually, as I said, getting about 10% commissions for closers, 5% for setters. Sometimes you can get 3 to 8% as a setter, 3 to 10% even. Okay, but as a closer, you're usually getting anywhere from 8 to 20, depending. Once again, so that being said, that is basically the gist of high ticket versus the corporate sales path. Why I prefer the high ticket. It mainly just comes down to higher income potential, more growth opportunities, more direct communication style, less politics, no floor, but also no ceiling, which I like. And if you know how to ask the right questions and you don't suck, then you can basically guess how much money you're going to make and even outperform the OTEs, because most companies don't have a dialed-in infrastructure. They don't know exactly the proper sales process to have, but most of the time you're not going to know that either, so you're going to have to develop that skill set. I do also say if you're going to be getting into this space and asking people to invest into themselves, it usually makes sense to invest into yourself as well. I'm not even necessarily talking about my sales coaching program, which if you do want to know more about, I have it down below in the description, or you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. But if you are going to get into this space, I heavily advise getting help with it, because your competition will. And those are the people you're fighting against to get these opportunities. So if this resonated at all, please make sure to subscribe and like the video, and go ahead and reach out if you need further support, if you have questions. Appreciate you guys for watching.